Polygon Matic is a very complex ecosystem, and in order to add more confusion to all of this, this video has a lot of different charts with data. We're trying to find out where is currently capital flowing. We're trying to find out where is adoption happening. Does it make sense overall to still buy Matic, or how it's now called, POL? Let's have a look at all those different charts. Now, in the last month, the momentum around Polygon Matic wasn't too bad. Have a look at the total value locked change. Polygon led all the other chains, an increase of 12.6%, while Ethereum lost 7%. And parts of this might be attributed to the adoption of the new POS token. But let's zoom out a little bit. This is the total value locked of all of DeFi across all chains over the years. And we had our nice DeFi summer in 2022, where we peaked out at 180 billion. Now we are a bit above 80 billion. But again, that's all of DeFi. Here we've got the same chart, but for Polygon Matic. That peaked out at 10 billion and since then went down by 90%. We don't see a recovery similar to the rest of DeFi. And the reason why we're still relatively low in the total value locked is because the Matic token itself didn't do too well. Here is the total value locked measured in Matic tokens, and yes, we do see a bit of increase over here. So in US dollars we are flat, in Matic tokens we do see adoption. In other words, the majority of those depressing numbers in terms of total value locked come simply from the price reduction of the Matic token. Now, why did the price go down? Let's have a look at a few on-chain metrics. So over here we've got the number of unique depositors on the Polygon ZK EVM chain. So there are several different chains, right? And this is one of the sub-chains. We see a lot of activity around May and August of 2023, a little bit of a revival in April of this year. But since then, it's rather quiet. That low activity in terms of depositors is not reflected in the total value locked though. Again, this is the ZK EVM. This is not all of Polygon. So the ZK EVM looks fine. Momentum isn't great for the last year, but at least we are somewhat flat. It's currently at around 100 million. But again, when we look at all of Polygon, there's very little growth for the last 2 years, roughly. Now here's a nice comparison of different layer 2s. So layer 1 is Ethereum, and then there are different scaling solutions on top of Ethereum. So Polygon was the very first one. We've also got Base, we've got Optimism, we've got Arbitrum. Let's compare how many funds get transferred or get bridged from Ethereum to those layer 2s. So again, we see here Polygon ZK EVM first, which peaked out in Q1 of 2024. Since then, capital tends to rather flow out or at least decrease in value. But now let's add all of those other options, right? We are now at 100 million at current value. This is how it looks with all those other chains. The total here is at 180 billion. So the Polygon ZK EVM is only 0.5% of all of that. And it can be barely seen in this chart. It's like this purple sliver, those purple pixels that we see every now and then. But what's really dominating the layer 2s is Optimism and Arbitrum. Arbitrum in orange, Optimism in red. And so here's the market share of those different layer 2s. So if we simply normalize this chart to 100%, the chain for perpetual futures, DYDX, is losing ground. Arbitrum is gaining ground, so is Optimism. And what we see here at the bottom in purple, that's the Base chain, the layer 2 that's supported by Coinbase. And so again, Polygon ZK EVM is a small sliver of the bridged value. Here's the problem with crypto YouTube. People promoting becoming degen or buying 100x coins. That's what gives clicks, but that's not what's going to bring you forward. I refuse to take money from centralized exchanges. I refuse to take money from crypto projects. I refuse to pump and dump a coin and filling up my pockets in the background. I don't do any of this. Instead, I share my knowledge in the form of tutorials in the premium membership. So that's content that won't do well on YouTube, but that builds up skill over time. You can also directly contact me over there. You can directly pick my brain. Feel free to check it out. thebitcoinstrategy.com is the link. Now we have seen how the number of depositors for Polygon tended to be very small recently, right? We had our peak roughly 1.5 years ago. Now that's very small. Is this Polygon specific, or is this overall for DeFi that people don't use the layer 2s that much anymore? The answer is in the following chart. Have a look at this. This is the number of users that bridge over to those various chains. And again, in July of 2023, we've seen quite a lot of activity, but this did slow down significantly. So it's not just Polygon specific. All of those layer 2s get less and less bridging activity. That doesn't mean though that the layer 2s aren't used, right? This is the number of active addresses. So the layer 2s are fulfilling their promise. They are getting used. There are more and more active addresses. However, just because the share of active addresses is rising does not mean that more money is getting bridged over. So it's simply just the existing players with their funds that are battling against one another. Let's go back to Polygon again. Let's have a look at the smart contracts that get created. So that's how adoption happens, right? Developers deploy smart contracts and then users use those smart contracts. So a leading indicator could simply be a lot of creation of those contracts. Now again, April and May of 2023 saw a lot of smart contract creation activity. Now we are rather low. You might notice I'm simply just presenting the data, right? I'm not judging anything here. Have a look at this. This is the decentralized exchange volume. So how many dollars get traded every day on Polygon dexes? And that's interesting, right? Because there's no new funds getting bridged over, but the funds that are there, they get continued swapping activity. And those swaps tend to have lower of a US dollar amount, because have a look at this. This is the number of trades and this is the number of traders. So just compare this. The number of traders is rather low. The number of traders is rather high. So the trades per trader are going up. How much of this is organic? How much of this is automatic trading via arbitrage bots and via front run bots? I don't know. It's simply just the raw data here. And so the layer 2s got way more efficient, right? There had been several updates reducing the gas fees. Ethereum still has very expensive gas fees, but the layer 2s don't. And so we see a crash in those data fees, which is good, especially since the number of trades is pretty constant. But that also means that the revenue for those layer 2s tends to decline. Back to Polygon, the market share of Polygon unfortunately is decreasing when we just look at the number of transactions. The chain that's really gaining is Base. Base continues to gain more and more of the layer 2 pie. The issue with Base though is that we don't have a Base token that we can bet on. Some people bet on the Aerodrome token, so on the largest decentralized exchange on Base. The problem with Aero is the tokenomics. We don't really know how many new tokens will hit the market. So even though Base is pretty reliably growing, we can't really bet on this. For Polygon, unfortunately, we don't see the share growing. We can also look at this individually. In December of 2022, there was an 80% market share, right? Polygon was one of the first layer 2s. Now it's only at around 30%. And so the way I interpret all of this data is that it seems like the market is somewhat maturing, right? There are people that have already bridged over their funds. They continue trading. And when we look at the number of new users versus recurring users, we are seeing the exact same trend. So there's less and less new users compared to recurring users. It's existing players that take over. Now the big question with all of this is, of course, where might the price go? And what I find most interesting is, of course, where might POL or Matic go relative to Ethereum? Because the overall crypto market is a completely different story, right? We have to look at stablecoin market flows, etc. If we just look at outperformance, because we want to outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we look at that, so for example, Matic divided by Ethereum or Matic divided by Bitcoin, we get the following chart. So this is Matic relative to ETH. And the volatility here is very large. Matic peaked versus Ethereum in February of last year and since then underperformed by more than 80%. So the conversion to the POL token definitely did not support the price. And we did have several technical supports, right, where we bounced off several times. But unfortunately, we did not hold that support in February. We also did not hold the secondary support in May. And now we've got one more support. Let's see whether or not this can hold. Crypto sometimes is about buying low and selling high, and obviously now the Matic price is comparatively low. The only problem that I have is I'm somewhat unclear about the tokenomics. As in, the supply side isn't that clear to me. Have a look at this. This is the number of circulating Matic tokens over time. So we did get our regular unlocks. And it seems like this peaked out at 10 billion. But when we now go to the same page, right, token.unlocks.app, and we look at the POL page, we see that there's there's another billion tokens, more than 1 billion that could unlock at any point in time. And on CoinMarketCap, we see that the current market cap is at 2 billion, but the fully diluted market cap at 3.8 billion. So there's room for the Matic supply to almost double. And that, of course, isn't that great for the relative valuation to Ethereum either. Anyhow, we are now very close to a decision. Will we hold that final support, or is Matic going to crash down and see those lows of 2021? It appears people are using Matic, but it's simply just at the current level and there is not a lot of inflows right now. The base chain seems to be stealing the show. I myself was invested in Matic and I was speculating on this support to hold. Once it didn't, I exited. Right now I'm just on the sidelines and observe what's happening. If we are going down further, then I might consider to even short Matic, again relative to Ethereum, not necessarily relative to the US dollar. I'm publishing Matic updates regularly on this channel. If you don't want to miss those, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to also give this video a like. It helps the channel grow. In case you've got Telegram, then you're more than welcome to join us. The link is down below. It's 100% free. Looking forward to chatting with you.